Good evening. Today, want to dare give an answer to the $1,000,000 question: how do we educate our children correctly? Now, you're not expecting me to answer in half an hour, but I'm going to give just one or two tips, something from my experience. I think there are two key words that needs to lead us when we come to educating our children, and that's no matter what age they are. And the two key words are love and boundaries. I think these are the two main things that we have to remember. And we're going to get to a third thing in a minute. Wait, someone's waiting to get in? No, I don't see anyone. Okay. When we talk about love, um, I read once a conversation between a person who's guiding parents and the parents, and the parents came very they said, how can we deal with this child doesn't do what we say, punishment doesn't help, and they're trying to push them nicely doesn't help, and we tried every system, nothing works, and he doesn't listen to us, and he doesn't organize his room, and wakes up in the morning and take a shower at night, nothing, the usual. So the person leading them and guiding them told them, I'm going to say something which is going to be hard for you to hear. Are you prepared to hear something hard? And they said, yes, please tell us, what is the answer? So she told them, the reason that you don't succeed is because you don't love your child. And they said, what? How can you say that? They were upset. We do everything needs to be done. We give him everything he needs, send him to all whatever he wants, the best computer and the best birthday party. Everybody was just jealous how much we give him, and so much. She said, no, that's not what it's about. I'm going to ask you a question, she said, and that many people don't stop to ask. What, in your opinion, is the most important thing a parent can give his children? And they answered her straight away, values, derech eretz, to be a mensch, to do Torah if you are religious, to do the mitzvot, but to be a good person. She said to them, that's true, that's very important, but it didn't say the one most important thing, and that is love. Without, there is no education without love, and that's the main part of the parent, to give the child the feeling of existence. And that's the key word to get to love, by making the child have meaning for life, making the child that he's expensive in a way, that he's important. That's what it's about. And all problems will be solved if that's how you manage to treat your child, by making him important. So the parents ask, but how do we do this? We just tell him he's important. We tell him he's loved. I said, no. You mustn't say that, but you must act it. And when we say that we have to give the child the feeling of having the right to exist, it means that he must feel, or she, that he is number one by us, and that's what's important. That he's the most important thing for us, and this is really so important, especially nowadays that we are all so busy with so many other things, so many very important things, and we have to answer ourselves harshly: where does the child fit in this whole picture, in terms of our priorities? Where do they fit in the picture? And so, as part of this feeling of love and importance, the children must be given this encouragement, and all the time saying how great they are. That's what the parents need to do. The second thing, which is very important in terms of children education, that is borders and boundaries. And for that, you need lots of patience because it doesn't happen overnight. And generally, education takes time, and you need to put an effort. And nowadays we used to doing things so much quicker. If in the old days you had to go on your horse until you get to the next town, it takes hours. Now you go in minutes with your car. Or in the old, not so long ago, but we used an oven. It took you a few hours to cook something. Now you put it in the microwave, it takes a few minutes. So things become much quicker. But when it comes to children education, there are no shortcuts. And life is not quicker. And what makes it more complicated is that what King Solomon taught us, Chanoch lanar al pi darko. Each child is different. Each child has got its own pace, and you cannot compare them. And you cannot think, oh, it worked for the one, it's going to work for the other. No. Each child you must look at differently and must go by their way and do the right thing. And there are a few tips of giving boundaries, and I think we all know that, but it's important to repeat that we parents that go with a child and with every tantrum that they have, we just fall for it and we give them what they want, then we only confuse them. Or we set the boundaries strong and we said that a family is not a democracy, and you don't there's no argument here, there's no discussion, and that's how it is in the old days. Nowadays parents deal differently, unfortunately, and so they suffer. The children suffer and the parents suffer, and so they try not to go into the arguments. So they try to bribe their children, and they try to do all kind of things that they won't go and head-on collision, and it's wrong because the children need the boundaries. They're looking for the boundaries, and we don't bribe them, and we try not to yell at them, but still sometimes you get upset, and it's also good to get upset and show them. Try not to shout, but it's good to show them this is the boundaries. These that's where you need to stop. That's what we must show them very assertively, not aggressively. That's very important. The difference between the two is very important. And so it's no secret that the children are looking for the boundaries, and so we need to give it to them. It's very important. By us giving the boundaries, you have to know how to do it in the right way. And in the right way is, first of all, we have to set an example. We teach our children by example. The children mimic, they imitate us. Knowingly or not knowingly, whether we notice it or not, they are going to be like us. They acting the same way as we do, and maybe in the nearest future, maybe in a further away future, but the way we behave is how they're going to behave. And that's two things I wanted to share with you just in 10 minutes to tell you in terms of children education. The two very important things are love and boundaries. But I think in this week's Parsha, we can find the third answer of how to educate our children correctly. And I read an article written by Sivan Rav Meir. She's a famous journalist in Israel now, very popular. She gave a lesson, a shiur a few years ago, was talking about this Parsha, and she noticed that there are many children of, as we say, Ben Shel. When I was growing up, I was always given that title, Ben Shel Rav. My father is a rabbi, so the people always told me, how can you do that when your father is a rabbi? And I was very upset about this, and then that applies to many children of, if your parents is some important person, so people will judge you and treat you accordingly. And that's very sad, but that's the reality. And let's see a few children of here in the Parsha and see how the education there went. And let's see another way of succeeding in our children's education. The first one I want to talk about is the children of Moshe. So it says in a parasha, the very unfortunate situation. In chapter 27, God says to Moses, go up the mountain, look at Israel. That's where you are not entering. You will not go into the Holy Land, and so you're going to die like your brother did. Why? Because you were supposed to speak to the rock, but you hit it. We gave a whole lesson about that. You can find it on YouTube, one of my lessons. Moshe, what is his answer? He doesn't argue at this stage, not at least not. He says to God, you know, me and you, God and me, Moses, we've built an empire here. I don't want this whole thing to collapse. Please, will you find someone, asher ruach bo, that has got the spirit to be able to lead the children of Israel into the Holy Land. Please, will you find someone appropriate to do the right job? Now, that's very strange. That's what Moshe asked for. But there is someone, you know, in every king, every dictator, every person who wasn't elected democratically, it's very simple. His children should lead the people. Where are Moses' children? We've heard about them years ago when they were born. In the beginning of the book of Shmot, Exodus, we've heard about Gershom and Eliezer. Beautiful names. Moshe remembers, he misses his family, he misses his nation. Gershom, ani Gersham, I'm a stranger. I'm not in my place where I'm supposed to be. I'm just a stranger here. And the second one is Eliezer, Elokim Ya'azor. May God help me. These are the two children that were born at the time. And why were they not the leaders after Moshe? Well, it doesn't say much about them. We don't hear about them being leaders in any way or any charisma or anything. We do hear something very sad a little bit later. Moshe's grandchild, at the book of Judges, chapter 18, it says there, at the end of the book of Judges, Shoftim, it says that there was a guy called Micha who built a temple for himself with a statue, and he was looking for someone to be the priest, to do the holy work. He was doing things wrongly. It is considered idol worshipping. And who does he find to be the priest? Someone who is not really a Kohen, not really a priest, but that is Yehonatan, the son of Gershom, the son of Menashe. Look at the word Menashe. Just one little nun differentiating between Menashe and Moshe. So the rabbis explain Gershom is Moshe's son. And Yehonatan, son of Gershom, son of Menashe, it's actually Moshe's grandson, who was chosen to be the priest at this idol worshipping place. That's bad. And so the Midrash teaches us, it's telling us that actually Moshe, at the time, he was asking God to be, for his children, to be priests, Kohanim, and kings. And God told him, I'm sorry, but I'm giving the kehuna, the priesthood, to your brother Aharon and his children, and I'm giving the kingdom to King David and his children. It will not be to you. So Moshe said, what am I going to get? The Rambam teaches us that there are three crowns to the children of Israel. There is the crown of Torah, the crown of Kehuna, priesthood, and the crown of Malchut, kingdom. And as we said, kingdom and priesthood were given to others. But where is the crown of Torah? And God said something which for me is the most frightening, maybe the most, or at least one of the most frightening sentences in the whole Talmud. It says there that Torah does not belong to anyone. Rabbis often do not have rabbis coming out of them, so they won't come with the claim, not them and not the people around them, oh, the Torah goes in their genes. The Torah belongs to that family. That is wrong. Every person who's prepared to work hard and to learn Torah day and night, he will become a great scholar. It doesn't make a difference who your father is. That's the difference between a king and a priest and someone who learns Torah. And Moshe has been taught that lesson in a hard way. Moshe was just told, listen, the Torah is not in your hand. If your children will follow your leads and learn Torah hard like you did, then they will get it. Unfortunately, they didn't. There is a very strange midrash, which is not so known, but crazy midrash saying that when Moses, it doesn't say it in the Torah, remember, it's a midrash, it's outside Torah, it's in the oral Torah, that when Moses ran out of Egypt and he got to Midian and he came to Yitro, that's the name of that person, and he says to Yitro, I want to marry your daughter, Tzipora. Yitro says, on one condition, that the firstborn that you're going to have from my daughter, you give him to me. And to me means I am a priest for the idols. You given your first child to me to be idol worshiper. And Moshe had to agree. Moshe had no choice. He agreed to that. And that's maybe why his children were not chosen to be leaders after him. And that's maybe why Gershom, who learned idol worshipping from his grandfather, it's no wonder that his son will be a priest for the idols there at Micha. Something amazing. Moshe is amazing as well. Moshe doesn't think twice. As God said, he takes Yeshua and he anoints him and he put his hands on him and he says, you are going to be the king or the leader after me. And God said that Yeshua is God the Spirit, and it's true. Yeshua is very special that he made the effort. When everybody was going back home, when Moshe went up Mount Sinai, it was Yeshua who was waiting for Moshe for 40 days at the foot of Mount Sinai. It was Yeshua who was sent with the other spies to Israel, and he came back, the only one except for Caleb, the only one who came back with a positive report. It was Moshe who gave Yeshua the Yud. His name was Hoshea. Moshe gave Yeshua the Yud from God's name, from Hoshea to Yehoshua. God will be with you, and God really was with him. So he didn't fall for those other 10 spies' mistake. He didn't follow them. And he was with Moshe at all times, and he didn't feel sorry doing any job, any work there at whatever was necessary. He was Moshe's right-hand man, and he learned everything from him. And it's no wonder that he would be the leader after him. Not Moshe's sons, but Yeshua. The question is, who is Yeshua's father? Interesting to note two things. First, Yeshua is always mentioned with his father's name. You know, we don't find it with Moshe or with Abraham. No, they are mentioned by themselves. But Yeshua is always mentioned, Yeshua bin Nun. But secondly, he doesn't say Yeshua ben Nun, the son of Nun. It says Yeshua bin Nun. What is bin? What does bin means? And the Ramban noticed that, and he explained that actually maybe they're coming to hint here that yes, his father was Nun. Nun, by the way, is a fish in Aramaic, but Nun, Binun, comes from the word Bina. Bina is, I don't know the exact translation to English, but some kind of wisdom. Yeshua received from Moshe and had the wisdom to lead the children of Israel correctly and properly. He had the spirit to do it the right way. And you know, the spirit that is so much missing. The commentators explain what is the spirit that he had as a leader. You know, nowadays leaders so much missing it. He managed to feel everybody and to represent everybody, not just however percentage of the population. No, he represented everybody. Everybody was participating and agreeing for him to be the leader. because he was the right man for the right job. And so he was accepted by all, no question. And Moshe agreed to it, and Moshe anointed him, and Yeshua be Nun, because his father Nun, who is he? Some anonymous, we don't know anything. I looked, I checked in all the midrashim, I couldn't find anything about Nun. He's a nobody, and yet he merited to have this to have this son, who is Yeshua, who was the great leader. Moshe, the great leader, his children do not follow his leads, but Nun, the nobody, had great leaders coming out of him. The next person I want to talk about is Aharon. Aaron HaKohen had 4 sons. And again, it's mentioned in this week's Parsha, the story or the tragic story of Aharon's 2 eldest sons. Their names were Nadav and Avihu. It says, Vayivaled le'Aaron Nadav Avihu, Elazar ve'Itamar. He had 4 sons, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, Itamar. Nadav, Avihu died when they brought a strange fire. That's a whole lesson on its own. We're going to give it another time. The different opinions. What was this strange fire that they brought? Some people take it to the positive way, most the negative way. They did the wrong thing in God's eyes. But what's important is that no matter how great your father is, or worse your father is, how bad he is, we have the freedom of choice. And we can choose whether to be good or bad. It is in our hands. God will not intervene. He will not interfere. I think we've spoken about this before, that in Arabic, there's a saying, Kulu maktub. Everything is written down. We in Judaism do not believe that sentence. The way we're going to go, whether we're going to do good or bad, whether I'm going to go left or right, it's in my hands. God will not intervene or interfere my decisions. It's entirely in my hands. And Aaron, he has got 4 sons. 2 of them chose, unfortunately, wrongly. Nadav and Avihu brought a strange fire, that the fire came down from God and killed them, burnt them alive. On the other hand, his 2 other sons, Elazar and Itamar, we read about this Elazar in the beginning of the Parsha. We read about Pinchas. The Parsha is called Pinchas. Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen, he was a great man. He did something that he could have lost everything. We read in last week's Parsha, Balak, how Pinchas takes the law into his hands and kills the leader of the tribe of Shimon when he was with this non-Jewish woman and doing the wrong thing in front of everybody. So Pinchas could not tolerate that, and he kills them both. And how can he take the law into his hands? And everybody looks at Moshe, and Moshe turns to God. What's going to be the verdict? And God said, he did the right thing. He did the right thing, and so he's going to be a priest. He's going to carry on the concept of peace. Hineni notenot beriti shalom. That's what he received, the shalom. So Nadav and Avihu, who were the eldest of Aaron's sons, they died tragically, but Elazar and Itamar, they will be the next leaders, and they will carry on the tradition. The next children I want to talk about are actually daughters. For the first time, we read about Moshe's sons and Aaron's sons and Yeshua. We read the previous parshat, but for the first time, we hear of Slofchad. Slofchad had 5 daughters: Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milka, Tirza. Those 5 daughters came in front of Moshe and they told him, listen, our father died. Slofchad died because he sinned. He didn't sin with Korach and his people, no, but he did sin. Why should we left with nothing? Our father was supposed to get a share in the Holy Land. Please give us his share. That's what they come and say. The rabbis were contemplating what was his sin. They were curious to know, what did Tzlofchad do? Who is this guy? One rabbi, Rabbi Akiva, says Tzlofchad was actually the Mekkosh. I don't know if you remember, at the end of the parsha of Shlach Lecha, there was a story about a person who didn't care it is Shabbat, and he went in, he gathered, he maybe cut some woods, and they warned him, and they told him, you're crazy, it's not allowed on Shabbat. He said, I don't care. They brought him to Moshe, and God said, kill him. The person to desecrate Shabbat is supposed to get a death penalty. That's one option. He is the Mekoshesh. Another option, he was one of those Ma'apilim. Again, it's a lesson we gave before. The Ma'apilim are those people who said after the sin of the spies, we love Israel. We are going to go, although God said that we won't succeed and we have to stay in the desert for 40 years. No, we're going to go now and there right now. And so they all died because the Amalekites and the Canaanites came and killed them all. Maybe Tzlofchad was one of those people. So the daughters of Tzlofchad come to Moshe, and the rabbis said only good things about them. They were clever, they did the right thing, and they were amazing. That's what the rabbis speak about those people. Their father was a great sinner. How did he merit to have such excellent daughters, such amazing children? The bottom line is that Moshe learned the halacha through them. It's interesting, the law is that if a person died without children, then his land goes to if he doesn't have boys, it goes to his daughters, and that's how the law was learned through those girls of Tzlofchad. What's interesting, I read one explanation, very original. Someone said, the apple does not fall far from the tree, because Tzlofchad was also a person of idealism. He was a person that was very important. His words were important, and he believed in what he was doing. He was a person of believing in the right thing. And so if he's the Ma'apilim, they said, we love Israel, his daughters love Israel as well. They want to get a share in the land of Israel. Or if he's from those who the person who Mekoshesh, who did the wrong thing on Shabbat, still he believed in something and went with it all the way to the wrong direction, but his daughters took it to the right direction. And that's maybe interesting. Maybe we do find, as we said, the children are like the parents. And Tzlofchad, I've read some interesting explanation. I don't know how good your Hebrew is, but Tzlofchad named his daughters names that are very much in movement. Machla, the first daughter, is not from the word machala. Machla is from the word lecholel, machol. That's dancing in a circle. Noah is again tnu'ah, movement. Chogla, again from the word lachog, mechogim, is again going in circles. Milka, from the word halcha, lalechet, to walk. And tirza means to run, larutz. So all the names of those 5 daughters actually represent their movement, and they want to go back to Israel. They want not back. They want to go to the Holy Land. The next and last children that mentioned in the parsha I want to talk about are the children of Korach. So we mentioned for a second Korach. We spoke about him a few weeks ago. Korach was this person who gathered a coalition against Moses. Korach was Moshe's first cousin, who said to Moshe, how dare you make yourself the leader, and your brother you gave to be the high priest? I'm also from the tribe of Levi. Give me something as well. Moshe got very upset. He was very insulted. He said, do you think I chose it? Do you think I wanted to be the leader of this nation that drives me crazy day and night? Here, take it. But if I wasn't chosen, but rather God forced me into this position, then the earth should open up and swallow you alive. There were 250 people with Korach, each with their own agenda trying to go against Moses. And they were all killed. That story we read a few weeks ago, but it's mentioned in this week's Parsha again. It says there in chapter 26, verse 9, Uvnei Eliav Nemuel Vedatan Va'aviram. Eliav from the tribe of Reuven, they are the ones that went against Moshe, Datan and Aviram. His children of Eliav, Datan and Aviram. Datan and Aviram, we know they are bad people from the time the people were in Israel, in Egypt, and until the desert, Datan and Aviram were always causing troubles. They went against Moshe and Aaron, they went with Korach, and so it says there in verse 10, Vatiftach haaretz et pia, vativla otam ve'et Korach. Those Datan and Aviram were killed, they were swallowed by the earth, by the land, by the soil, and Korach with them. And then there is a small verse, very short, very strange. It says there, verse 11, Uvnei Korach lo metu. The children of Korach actually didn't die. It was only Korach who died, but not his children. And the rabbis taught us that his children at the last minute did tshuva, repent, and went back to do the right thing. And often we find the children of Korach later in the Tanakh. King David made descendants of Korach as important Leviim who were singing and dancing at the temple later on. But before that, even Elkanah, as you remember, is the father of Shmuel. Samuel, the important prophet Samuel, he is coming from Korach. Samuel came from the sons of Korach, and that's quite amazing that you have a father who's such a bad person. Again, just like the daughters of Tzlofchad, so to hear Korach was so bad, and yet his children chose to be good, and good will come out of them. Those four words, Bnei Korach lo metu, shows such an important message that you think you're stuck. What can I do? It's not my fault. I'm a bad person because my parents were bad. Not true. You must choose your way, as we said about the freedom of choice. And so you must choose to be going the right direction. And don't blame anything on your father or on your parents. Don't accuse anyone. You can do right. And the rabbis taught us, למקום שאדם רוצה ללך, מוליכים אותו. The place that a person wants to walk towards, that's where he's going to walk. That's where they're going to lead him. That's where we're going to help him go towards. And so just to summarize, we tried to give some words of advice in terms of children education. And after talking to my wife and consulting with her, we agreed on two main key words, and they are love and boundaries. Everything out of example that we set by ourselves. But maybe the most important thing that we haven't mentioned, and that's we learned from this week's Parsha and from many other places, that is prayers. What can we do? We go back to God. What can we do? Whether our children are going to follow our ways, our leads, whether they're going to do what we believe is the right way, at the end of the day, it's up to them. We plant the seeds, and we can only pray that they're going to grow the way we want them to grow. We see from this week's Parsha all kinds of examples. We see the examples of the children of Moses, who didn't really follow his leads, with children of Nun. We know nothing about him. Yeshua bin Nun, Nun's son, who became a great leader. Who was Nun? We don't know, but his son was a great leader. The children of Aharon we spoke about. Aaron's children that some of them did, some didn't. And the children of Tzlofchad, the daughters of Tzlofchad, who were much greater than him. So just like the children of Korach were greater than him, So we can only pray. So we do what we can do. We obviously try our best to teach by example, to set a good example, to make boundaries, to love our children endlessly and make them important. But at the end of the day, the siyata dishmaya, the help of God, is the very important factor in our success of our children education. Any questions about our lesson today? Please, Sion, ask. Tal mute. We don't hear you. Press unmute. Do you want to ask a question or not? Anyone wants to ask? לא שומעים אותך. Still we cannot hear you. I don't know why. Anyone else while he's trying to organize? Anyone wants to ask? No. So I think we'll call it a day.